All right, back with another conversation. Coach Josh Greco here with Dr. Bob. I think we're going to jump into discussing a book that you've written. You've written many books, right, Dr. Bob? So is this the most
Yes,
recent one? Is that right?
yes, yes, yes.
Why don't you
Yep.
share the title and the gist of it, and then we'll dive right in.
Uh, Decoding the Holy Grail and Discovery of the Potential Molecule. Yes.
That sounds important.
It's involved.
Yeah, so this is cool because this is like a little snapshot in time. I'm still reading the book. I'm probably about 3/4 of the way through. Enjoying it. One thing I've noticed, I guess my biggest takeaway so far is just the reference points of all different, like, I mean, the places you've visited and the experiences that you've had and your knowledge of religion. And there's just so many different references, and the way you tie it all together is like, oh. So a lot of those moments like, oh, that's cool. Yeah, that makes sense. And it's all like, it's all together.
Yeah, yeah. That's really what prompted me to write the book, because I felt that there were so many areas of inquiry that relate and describe the Holy Grail, that are totally different than other interpretations. And it was a sense of uh, uh, validity,
Mm.
greater validity, by virtue of the fact that there were so many other areas and disciplines that connected to it, and I think that that's always a valid interpretation of inquiry for people, that it's not just one opinion, one discipline that you're looking at. You're looking at a number, and of course, science is one of them. In the case of the book, actually, science is there's two different approaches to the science, two different sciences. But yeah, it was a very rewarding book. And I'm looking forward to writing a sequel that's that has more of a philosophical basis to it, now that I've able to establish it on so many different levels. But let me ask you, what other things might you have taken away? What questions might you have concerning that, Josh?
Yeah, so let me just talk through some of these things and see where we come out. So I'm fascinated by uh, what I might call little traces in the universe of like things that are just true, like patterns that show up. The Fibonacci numbers in particular was probably the most interesting part to me. How these things show up, because to the naked eye, right? There's nothing there. It's just like, oh, that's over here, that's over here. But one thing you've connected is just these natural patterns throughout the universe, and I thought that was really really interesting.
Yeah, especially in the brain. I'm doing a research paper now for two research journals concerning that very thing.
Hmm.
How years ago I discovered, utilizing the Fibonacci series, a predictor model, real estate. I'm sorry, stock market predictor models,
Yeah.
right? And then so 2 years ago, when we were doing the research on the of the mind and the patterns in the mind, we found that very same pattern was active and dominant
Hmm.
in patterned in the process of thinking, of mind science. So I mean, that's a pretty interesting quality there. And you when you can see it in one thing so germane and basic as a stock market, and then see it in the mechanics of how uh, your thinking works, wow, I mean, that means something, you know, there's something more universal there and profound, you know? So
Yes.
anyway, yeah, yeah. What else, man? You got me
But
going now.
yeah, no, so I'd love to talk more about that part because that was let me see if I understand it right, because I think I understand most of it, but you could probably fill in some gaps for me here. So you're talking about the stock market. The theory was, or your approach was, and you've become successful at this, right? So there must be some truth to it, that there's certain there's ways to predict even the unpredictable. For example, there's different energies that people have. So where people might just play the stock market now, there's things that happen. All right. And so this model kind of plans for that, or understands how that energy works. And it comes from plotting the points. Is that right? Like, so if you're plotting the points, and then you can incorporate these shapes that show up in the universe, you can almost predict when things are going to flip, or when dramatic changes in the stock market are going to happen. Do I understand that right?
Yes, yes,
That's
that's
fascinating. That's really cool to, because it's also like a bit of interpretation of how you would get the points on the paper, and then incorporate the shapes so that you can look into the future and know what's going to happen.
yeah. Uh, this new paper, which I hope to convert into a book. The major thing about that is that uh, you know, let's stick with that stock market model. You hear all of these experts tell you that, well, you know, the interest rates are going up, so that's the reason for this, and you have dividends that are going down, so you know you can expect this, and that's the reason this happened. But but as I think I had told you some time ago, there are 57 references to uh, pre- predetermination in the Bible. I mean, that's a lot of references. And the fact that there is a geometry, um, a science to what's going to happen in the future has nothing to do with the interpretation that society places upon uh, this particular these events, this particular, in this case, the stock market. You know, so it just goes to show you how off center we are in our belief systems about our reality, and the fact that that there's, for the most part, either a rejection or an outright ignorance of the fact of predetermination and free will
Yeah, can you define predetermination, just so we're on the same page with that?
Well,
What do you?
that's something that things that there's a definite plan, and that certain things are going to happen.
And so you think you're saying both can happen at the same time, predetermination, but also free will can exist at the same time. Is that right?
Yes. And the free will is kind of curious because it relates to the predetermination. In other words, what I've been discovering with natural thinking, um, uh, which I now call genetic psychology,
Hmm.
getting up there, you know,
Mhm.
is that um, there is a definite pattern to the way, a scientific pattern to the way we think. Okay, not what we think, but the way we think, right? And that patterning, that process generates predetermination. It dictates, what can or will happen. However, what we think relates directly to free will. Okay? So, in effect, we have the free will to accept or reject this predetermination process, these patterns that exist within us. And that then causes chaos and, loss and pain and suffering and everything else.
Okay, so you're saying if we go against, we have a choice to go against predetermination. So what if we honored predetermination? There was no resistance from anybody anywhere. What would happen? Is that like a bliss? Is that like a paradise? Is that like would there be suffering still?
You're following your path. You're following a solid path.
Well,
Now here's the thing. You can follow that predetermination, that genetic psychology perfectly. Doesn't mean that you're not going to have issues. Doesn't mean that you're not going to suffer. Doesn't mean that you're not going to fail. Doesn't mean that you're not going to break a leg or lose a loved one or not gain a loved one, whatever. Those things could well happen because that's not what life is about. Life is about learning the lessons, developing potential. That we're here to advance our souls, not our ego, not our mental capacity, our souls. So that the greater the emphasis one places on the predetermination, on the genetic psychology process, the greater the chance of advancement. So, soul development, soul expansion becomes, okay, and that's kind of logical because you're trying to embrace potential, which is a all-embracing concept. And the more of that concept that you can embrace and take into your being, the more godlike you become. The more, right? The greater your soul, your itty bitty tiny little soul grows into that huge, immense model of everything, which is potential, and a lot of people can't get that, Josh.
Well, it goes against what we can see with our eyes and hear with our ears, right? It's beyond the senses, and I think that's 5 years ago. I don't know if I would have grasped this, right? But I've been introduced to these concepts about the soul, quite recently, and I don't know. It's fascinating. I think about it like this: like if I didn't believe it then, and I believe in that now, like who's to say there won't be something else that I'm not aware of that I'll believe in more in a couple of years, and maybe this will be obsolete. So I think about that too. Like, how do we know that this is the truth?
Yeah, well, it's a question of how one does it touch your core,
Yeah. So a quick point. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I think that's the main point of why I have and do believe in that, is that there's this sense of like inner knowing that you can't explain to people, right? But it's like it's like a feeling, but it's almost beyond a feeling. It just feels right, and you can't describe that feeling. It's not comparable to anything else that you've felt physically, but it's like it's deep within you, and you're just like, you just know it when it's there.
That's
I don't
right.
know how else to say it, right?
Yeah,
That's what it is.
yeah. It's like last week we were talking about dispensing with belief systems, with everything that you were saying. Oh, yeah, it's difficult. It's easy. Well, it is difficult, but when you have that inner sense, you know you're on the right track. You hit it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hmm.
So and Socrates said that intuition is pure reason. Okay, and that's exactly what you're doing. You're hitting your sense of pure reason on the on the deepest of levels. So that's the best way of knowing and pursuing. And I think that when I look back, it was that sense of development that I used the most to go to the next stage.
That
So
that inner knowing is what you're saying.
yes, yeah,
Okay.
that sense of pure reason.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, it's like if somebody says to me, uh, how 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 could potential be the ultimate um, factor in humanity? Well, for one thing, it goes well beyond humanity. It goes to anything and everything.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that was another pickup, is like when something is the way that it is that you experience, it has fulfilled a part of that potential that it was meant to be. Is that right? Is that how you'd say it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. 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 I mean, potential, uh, you name it, and it's either potential that has been realized or potential that can be realized. There's even potential that we haven't imagined yet.
Mm.
So we're so far uh, uh, behind times when you can't look at um, your relationship to the universe. And that's the thing that who was I to? I was talking to somebody just recently, and we were discussing that whole thing. How oh yeah, this young lady who was upset because people weren't recognizing her work. And I said, well, perhaps that's not what you should be concentrating on. Perhaps you should be concentrating on your work and not the recognition of your work.
Mm.
And, I knew it hit her, it hit that core, but she rejected it, you know. Well, I don't think that that's what's going on. Well, then why did you hesitate when I said it to you?
Mm.
Well, I was just thinking about it. Well, okay, all right, okay, I got you. Yeah. But that's exactly what's going on. You
Yeah.
know, again, we fall into the trap of the four major restrictions: fear, ego, ignorance, and self-deception.
Mm.
And it drags us back into that um, that world of restriction. So what we want to do is try to overcome that so that we are in a position to realize a greater level of potential. Josh.
Those are four beasts right there: fear, ego, ignorance, and self-deception.
Yeah.
One of those is hard to overcome, right? So when you're talking about overcoming all of those, that's
What
something.
what Josh?
I said one of those is hard to overcome, right? So the four-headed monster of all of those four things together is
Yeah. Yeah. Any one of them is tough. Yes, but
right.
but And I think I told you, we did some studies last summer, and we found that uh, in critical situations, uh, people uh, base their decisions almost 90% of the time on fear,
Oh yeah.
and 80% of the time on ego, right?
Oh yeah.
And a lot of, almost an equal amount of time in ignorance. Where I was having a fascinating conversation with my controller in my office about that, about people who are in positions, for instance, to buy real estate, but they don't, because of fear,
Mm-hmm.
mostly, and ignorance. They just don't understand when you tell them that you buy today, and 5 or 10 years, that property could be worth, 20% more, 30% more, 50% more,
Right.
and they look at you, well, come here, let me show you the records. Here, look at 1990. Now look at 2000. Now look at 2010. I'm not that lucky. Yeah, but it's not luck. These are thousands of people that the records are coming from. It's not
Hmm.
coming from one person, you know. Well, I no, I'm not ready. It's fear. They go
Hmm.
from ignorance to fear,
Yep. Yeah. And that.
and that's what. That's why we have the world that we have, because people are not willing to get out of that modality.
Mm,
And the people that are in control don't foster that type of development.
hmm. Yeah.
They're too busy with their own power or control factors or making money, instead of being out there
Right.
and holding lectures, seminars, or what have you, and bringing people up from the audience and saying, now, why don't you tell the audience 5 years ago the way you were thinking about buying your house?
Hmm.
You know? And you got maybe 50 people in the audience, or 100 or 500 people. That's what we need. We don't need the goddamn government to give us grants and monies and all that crap.
Hmm.
What we need is the courage and the knowledge in order to uh, to develop our potential. We'll find a way. We'll find a way to get the money.
Right. Mm,
We'll find a way of buying that place. So it becomes, the Holy Grail is something that's genetically within us. We have to look for it. We
when
have
you
to
say us,
search.
this is for every person that exists, right? It's the
Yeah,
same. It's
yeah, yeah.
what
And
creation is based on.
that's right. And it's not necessarily the same for each of us as to how we do it. The process, yes, is as we know, as we're learning, the genetic process is there, but the way in which we apply it is our own individual thing.
Hmm.
And once we learn the positives and negatives of the way in which we try to do it, you see, we're all searching for the grail. Some of us believe it. Some of us wish we could believe it. Some of us don't believe it, but we're still all searching for the grail, and in our own way.
Hmm.
So sometimes it's only money. Sometimes it's emotion, with feelings. sometimes it's mentally with science, and knowledge and understanding. But we all have a grail to pursue,
Hmm.
and it's there. It's absolutely there. Every single time I meet somebody and there's some sort of question or an issue, I see that challenge right in there. It's right here, right in their forehead. You see, you have a grail issue. No.
A grail issue. I like that.
Yeah.
So let's just loop this back. I want to talk about the stock market example one more time. And if you could, I think your camera flipped up. I can only see the top half of you, if you don't mind. Yeah, there we go. So the stock market issue. So we got into that a little bit because I think it's key. I'm just curious about that, but I also think it connects potential. It's all related to what we're talking about, right? So is it also based on what's already happened? Like, because that's the data that you have, right? Those are the points that you're plotting, that you can also project the uncertainty that could potentially happen in the future.
Oh yeah, one builds one. It's a continuation.
Right.
It's definitely a continuum.
Mm-hmm.
One power, one energy force leads to another, right?
Okay.
And you need two in order to create a third, the future.
Okay, so that's what I remember when it was at the points where the lines intersected. Those were the points that were key for you. Is that right?
Where the lines intersected. No, no. The way it basically worked was you took spikes, power surges, up or down,
Mm-hmm.
and you connected two of them. That was your radius, and then you created a diameter.
Right.
And at the end of that diameter is when a new power surge occurred. Okay.
Okay. So yeah. So the lines they're touching or they're intersecting. I would say. Is that how you would say it, or?
Well, no, they're not intersecting. There are points where they do intersect, and when they intersect is another power surge.
Okay.
Okay. So there's several different ways in which you can have these power points. And sometimes they're quite distant from each other, and sometimes they're pretty regular, pretty consistent,
Yeah.
These past 5 years. I mean, I've been doing this since 2000. I would say the past 5 to 7 years, it's been pretty regular. The surges, up and down, big surges,
Right.
which means to me that there's a blow off coming. That these power surges are eventually going to, sort themselves out, play themselves out, for a period of time. And I think that's coming very soon.
And so what does that mean? That means it'll level out and won't be as drastically up and down? Is that what you're
Means
saying?
you'll have a crash.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You'll have a crash. And then we'll start. There'll be a period of synthesis, let's say,
Mm-hmm.
and until the energy starts to adversely impact again. When it adversely impacts, that's when it starts up. That's when you get the spiking.
All right. So based on what you've plotted with potential and all that, you're thinking that a crash is coming. Is that right?
Oh yeah.
And can you predict that within a given time range? Like not even like a
Next 6 to 10 months.
Okay, so by February of 2023 at the latest, we're talking crash.
More than likely before the end of this year,
Okay.
more than likely.
Okay.
But, don't forget now, that's a relative thing. That the crash may bother me, but it may not hurt me. The crash may hurt Joe.
Right.
It may totally destroy Bill. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So things are relative.
Right.
The whole idea is the metaphysics. What is going on behind the scenes? What is the direction that the power of the universe is trying to direct us?
Hmm.
What is it that they're trying to push us away from and push us towards?
And so
Right?
what would that answer be in terms of the stock market? So we're pushing towards a break. Is
Yeah.
that a good, it seems like a bad thing, right? Is it a good thing?
Yeah. No. Yeah. I think you might see a market default by as much as 40, maybe 50%.
Hmm.
That's pretty dramatic.
And so you're saying that the universe is just going in that direction right now.
Well, it's yeah, but it's not that the universe. Yeah, the universe is, but the universe is trying to tell us things by
Hmm.
these actions. And in many ways, it's trying to inform and direct people who are not open to this type of thing. It's trying to make them aware of a deeper level of reality. It's trying to tell them that you're looking at life as that's it. That, hey, 80, 90 years and, no, there's more. And while there's more, there's other factors. It's not just, as a friend of mine says, making money and getting laid. It goes beyond that. Oh, really? Oh, I don't know that. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that, so the universe is trying to say that you're shallow.
Yeah.
Well, I think I'm a pretty deep guy. I know a lot about things and, I know spiritual things. Well, maybe you do, but maybe you don't. Maybe there's more.
Well, that's a major coaching principle, right? You got to be open to, hey, you might not know everything. The second that you are closed off to other ideas, then you're limiting yourself in what you can accomplish.
That's right. That's
Because
right.
it's all expansive. It's not even like you can get to a point to be like, okay, I got it, I figured it out. Every time you figure something else out, it expands your potential. Like there's more there than you can even fathom.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes, there's always more. There's always more.
Yeah. I
And
just real quickly, I had a coach in my company say this, and it stuck with me. He said, "I don't want it all. I just want more."
that's a good one. I like that.
Yeah,
I
that's
like
great.
that. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's very true too. You
Yeah,
know, you can have more, but you can't have it all.
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That works. That works. Yeah. Yeah. And it's a good lesson in realizing potential, because nobody can ever realize their fullest potential.
Yeah.
But the idea of working towards it and
See, that's like the
trying.
ultimate paradox, right? It's the paradox that's difficult to wrap your mind around. But I think it is just that, right? The more that you realize, the more that you're you're exposed to. There's even more possibility the more that you realize. Is that how you'd say it? Yeah, that's a mind fuck right there.
Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of yeah. There's a lot there. There's a lot there.
Mhm.
And the most amazing thing is um, a gathering of like minds on issues such as we're engaging right now is uh, very powerful towards reaching people's potential without them even going there,
Hmm.
because you're going there on another level, uh, which is one of awareness and realization. Okay. And awareness is key.
Everything starts with awareness. Matter starts with awareness, right? And just by giving our attention to something, that's where
Yes.
matter comes from.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you know, you look at life, you know, these euphemisms, you know, that I was listening to Cardinal Dolan this morning, you know, and he was talking about, you know, Jesus dying on the cross and being resurrected, you know, in 3 days. And I'm saying to myself, yeah, but that's not the lesson. That's not what he was trying to get across, you know? He was trying to tell us that, you know, what happens when you die, not that that's what happened to him. That's what happens to us. You know, you die and then 3 days later, whatever 3 days is on the other side, you come back to life. And then St. Paul talks about that in the Corinthians, that you know, you when you die, you go to this place and you know, you sleep in effect. And then after a while you wake up and you're different. You change. Well, there's a way in which you change. There's a way in which you can change too. That's what I'm researching right now. And I know that there's a way to get from the place that you go to when you die to the place in which you would like to go to, heaven, you know, for like lack of a better term.
Mhm.
Um, you know, you you become more inclined to do that, but not if you don't know what the hell is going on. You know, you could end up in you know, waking up in a pigsty with, you know, a pigtail and ears, and all of a sudden, you know, you're a hog or you're a pig. You're not a human being anymore. You know, like the Hindus believe. You know, you come back as as an animal or something else. You know,
Mhm.
um, but these are all, especially in the New Testament, these are all uh, pictures of reality using earthly terms to explain uh, universal spiritual uh, life.
Right.
Right. And you know, you really couldn't tell. You couldn't tell somebody like Putin that, or Hitler that. Um, but the universe, when the universe moves in that direction, maybe there's other people that are in similar positions that do get it
Hmm.
and might change, might prevent things like what's going on from happening 100 years from now, 50 years from now, 30 years from now.
That's another takeaway from the book, is that everything happening and existing now is always a part of something greater. So it feels like, well, this is the end result, right? This is what we deal with. But to your point, like there's always more into the future, and maybe we're experiencing lessons now that we'll use in the future.
Yes.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I gotta say, I really love the book, and unfortunately, I have friends of mine who have bought the book, they read reviews and they like the reviews, they read the book. What are you talking about? What is this? We're the girls, where's the money? And you try to explain to them, well, it's a discovery about something that's in your mind that kind of like has control, and you follow it, but you don't. What are you talking about? I'm in control. There's nobody controlling me.
There are those that are ready to receive it, and those that need to learn other lessons first.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yep. Yeah. And I never learn. There's a lesson that I tell my wife and sometimes my kids that I never learn. Cast not your pearl before swine. And there's so many people that. I mean, let's put it this way: there's more people who don't get it than do get it. A lot more. A lot more.
But I
That's
would say
why.
there's more people who are converting from not getting it to getting it than from getting it to not getting it.
Bring them from not getting it to getting it.
And people, like, you don't go back, right? Once you get it, you get it.
I think so. I
Yeah.
think so. Sometimes people get lost. Sometimes they don't. I mean, in my own family, I see every once in a while, you have conversations, and they get it. But 2 days later, they're doing things showing that either they forgot, or it wasn't deep enough, or they're afraid.
Hmm.
So you got to go at it again.
So I love coaching so much, right? And get to come back and reassess and make sure we're on the right path. I may have shared this before, but I share with my clients, this is your 1 week. So we meet weekly. This is your 1 week insurance plan. You'll never go longer than a week without being on the right path, because we'll
Yes.
always come back to straighten it out.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's cool. And it's true. It's true. But then the old saying that there's something good in everything, even evil things.
Yeah.
I'm so convinced that this is the reason why negative things happen in the world, why they happen to people. So people say, "Why me?" Well, if you really want to know why you're on the right path,
Yeah, right. Hmm.
right? But if you're just feeling sorry for yourself, or totally lost, you're not getting it.
Bingo.
And it's I just don't. And then you think about people who are in power, who mislead people. And for the most part, they do it on purpose, for their own benefit. That other world's going to be a little rough,
Mm-hmm.
a little rough. I remember many years ago, I was in a karate class, and the sensei left the class, and he left one of the more advanced students in charge. And this guy all of a sudden became a power freak, and he started pushing this one young student around. The sensei came back, and somebody told the sensei what happened. And he walked over this guy and he cold conked him. Just knocked him silly. Guy went down and laid down there for a good 10, 15 minutes. It was the funniest thing, because I thought to myself, I wonder if God does that to us when we get on the other side, and he points out something that we did, as a bully or something like that. That we, Jesus, God Almighty, it's terrible, terrible. And if there was only a way that you could prove to those people that that's what's going on, and that reality, I would love to do that. That reality exists. Right? It would make a big difference. It would make a big difference.
100%. Maybe
We good?
we leave it there, unless you got any final words. We want to wrap it up in any other way.
I just awareness, a way of getting the best of messages across, and the best of messages is trying to develop the greatest amount of potential that you can. Once again,
and continual awareness. Awareness is not something that you've achieved and then you can stop. There's always more.
yes,
Maybe we'll end with that. So not that we want it all, but we want more.
yes. Okay, so Bona Pasqua, right? Good Easter.
Dr. Bob.
Hope you have a great time, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, Dr. Bob. Talk soon.
Be good.
Bye.